All right. Welcome to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel, and today's special guest is Eric Bretl. Eric, how's it going?
Good. Going good. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, it's a take two. But so a little story. You heard this on a pre-show. We'll tell it again. So I knew Eric from the past. He was on one of the podcasts and was on a panel. But I wanted to get your story, your journey, because I hear it's really good. And I've known you for a little while, but you came to this mile, like 1776 mile back in July that you ran and did really well. And I was doing quick hit interviews and I was asking your name. You have this beard now and mustache. Before, or you had it then, but then in July, you shaved it all off and just had a mustache. And I was like, who's this guy? Like, you go, yeah, it's Eric Bretl. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. You look completely different.
Yeah, the mustache, it was here up until through CIM, actually, the race that we just remember. I shaved in summer because it gets hot here in Texas. So didn't want to have the full beard, trying out the mustache. And thankfully, the wife didn't mind it either. So it was there to stay for the summer. But now that it's winter, getting colder, the beard's coming back.
All right, that's good. And one of the things I heard about you in the past was that you're just there for everyone. And I think I heard a story one time where, I don't know if it's Maddie or Jennifer, who knows, either got hurt or something happened and you just came and drove over there, got them, and like you're the hero of the group. I don't know if that's true.
I know what story you're talking about. I think that might have been Tracy, Tracy Duty.
Oh, Tracy. Maybe.
It might have happened a couple times actually, but I was actually injured at that point too. But I was rollerblading with them while they were on a long run. And Tracy, something happened with her hip, I think, which actually I think is one of the last runs that we had with her. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, I just rollerbladed back quick to the car, went to go pick her up. And yeah, I think that's a nice theme of what I like to do when running is just run with the group. If the group's doing something, I'll do that with them. I'd rather not train solo. And to be honest, if I was solo, I would definitely not be training as hard or as far as I do right now. And that's the beginning of my story actually is like, I used to run 15, 20-ish miles a week, probably back in 2018, 2019.
Okay.
First half marathon I signed up for was the Dallas half in 2019. Had never done it before. Had the ambitious goal of breaking an hour and 30 minutes. And I was running,
ambitious.
Yeah, 20 to 25 miles a week, thinking I was training super hard. I would think like at that point, I was like, I'm training harder than most people out here. Little did I know harder. But at that time, I was doing tempo runs and long runs. My long runs were 10 miles, which at this point, just a drop in the bucket. But at that point, it was super far. And then I ran the Dallas half and I ran a 1:34 and immediately got humbled by the distance. So didn't hit my goal. And
but I mean, that's pretty good for your first half. When you put it in perspective.
It was pretty good. But when I thought I had it in the bag based on some tempos I was doing, I just didn't have the mileage in hindsight. Yeah. Thought I had it in the bag. And when I didn't do it, I was like, man, I just trained so hard and I would get my goal. Running is so hard. And on my bay, if I keep training for 5 more years, maybe I'll break 130. But that was pretty. But yeah, that was me training solo, thinking I was the hardest worker in the room when that definitely was not the case.
What did you know? A lot of people think the same things, right? Like they think they're training hard and they don't know sometimes what it's like. They go run a marathon. I talked to this guy once. He ran a marathon without hardly any training. And I'm like, that's just dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. You learn really quickly what's needed to succeed.
Yeah. And I think that kind of what you brought up is running with a community. You really start learning a lot, I think. Did you run with anybody? You said solo. You didn't run it with anybody? You just decided to do it?
Most of that was solo. And that kind of is a segue to my whole running career after that. So I ran the Dallas.
Before we do that, did you do anything in high school, college? Did any kind of sports or running, anything like that?
Yeah. That's a whole other background too. But high school, I did do cross country. So I do have a little running background, but I was never like a hard worker. And I would run during the 12-week season. And then during the off season, I wouldn't run anymore. So a very mediocre high school runner. But I did have the background. We had good coaches and we had good teammates and all that stuff. We were a really good team. I was just middle of the pack, very mediocre. But it did give me a background for that. And then I went to college, stopped running. I didn't really enjoy it that much and started getting into lifting more. So I spent all of lifting instead of running.
That's
got a little bit too into lifting where I got a little bit overweight and I was like 225 pounds, but I was really strong, but I didn't look it. I was very thick and kind of had a little bit of fluff on me. So then
you're probably just lifting weights and doing no cardio.
Yeah, exactly. I'm lifting weights and I'm looking at the back of a nutrition label of a Jack's Pizza and seeing that it's got 90 grams of protein. I didn't know anything about fats and carbs at that point. So I was like, oh yeah, protein, I'll just do that. So similar to how I said, I'm the hardest worker in the room running 20 miles a week. I also thought that it was just that's just the way my body is. I just eat enough protein and I work out a lot and I just am a thicker guy, just a little bit fluffier. That's just kind of how I'm made and I can't really change that.
You're not thick at all like now.
Yeah, now I'm probably 180 pounds right now versus the 225 I was before. So a little bit on the heavier side still for a runner, but yeah, definitely not a chunkier dude.
Yeah, you don't look, you're just tall.
Yeah, I think I fit what my body should be now. There was a point where before I got into running, I got into, once I started learning how to lose weight and learning about calories, I like went way too heavy into that and started just eating chicken, veggies. And I
Sounds
think
like you're an overachiever and whatever it is.
yeah, once I learn how to do something and once I know something works, then I'm like, oh, it works. Why would I not do that?
Yeah.
So then I
yeah.
went too far into that and I got down to 165 pounds trying to maintain strength the best work. But now we're at a great equilibrium where I eat more freely, I run more, I lift more. So after 10 years of doing all these trial and errors, I've figured out what my body's happy with.
Takes time, man. It's good that you kind of did. All right. So where'd you go to college? Did you go to college?
It's a small school in Wisconsin for college. Yeah, I was thinking about running there just because it was a smaller school and it was a no cut team, just like a community thing. But I had run cross country in the fall and then not run for 8 months. So then going to try and join was way out of my league, way out of my element. I was like, yeah, this isn't enjoyable. And that's kind of when I started lifting, was after I decided, yeah, we're not going to do this college running thing, just kind of started lifting. And I actually loved lifting. So I still do it to this day, try and maintain as much strength as possible while running, which is counteractive workings, but it's okay.
I think any kind of weightlifting and stuff like that is going to help you in a big way in your running.
Yeah, for sure. It's the work ethic type of thing. But yeah. So lifting is still a big part of what I do now. It's still like upper body stuff, which has nothing to do with running, but I enjoy it.
You swing your arms a lot.
Yeah. There you go.
And that helps.
Yeah.
It's not bad to have a nice core. All right. So what made you decide to run a half marathon and train for that first one?
The Dallas half, I actually think I would attribute that to one of my buddies that lived in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, was living back there. He had recently started running and he had ran a marathon. And I don't even remember what the finish time was, but I know it was like 7:40 something per mile, 7:30 something per mile. And at that time, I was running 10, 15 miles a week, going out for runs at 7:50, 7:40, 7:30 pace and kind of being winded after those 3, 4, 5 mile runs. And I just remember being so impressed with that he was able to do that. And I was like, if he can do that after if that training works, this is one of those other things of, wow, I see that if you actually run and try and get better, you can get better at something.
Yeah.
So that kind of inspired me to start. And then, once I started learning how to train, watching YouTube videos of what people are doing, weeding out what's good information, bad information, I started to really try and go for it. But then, I did the Dallas half, as I mentioned, and that didn't go quite the way I had wanted it to go. So I wanted a redemption race. So I signed up in February was the Hot Chocolate 15K down in Dallas also. And then that was just a couple weeks later. And I was like, so the Dallas half, I went out pretty hot and just died at the end. Had no idea what I was in for. Went out at 6:30 pace and did going 8:30 pace. I thought I was better than I was for sure. So at this time, closer to 7-minute pace and kind of worked my way down. And I was actually able to finish my last mile at 6:15 pace, I believe. So that went so much better. And that got me reinvigorated for running. I think it was around this time that I had got on Strava and started following people on Strava. I maybe had 10 followers and was following 10 other people. I remember looking at the results and seeing 2 people that lived in my area, Frisco, Plano type area, that were around our speed that I aspired to be. So I think my average pace there was like 6:30 or 6:40. And so I saw Maddie Jenkins then, so Maddie Steyer now, had run like a 6:06 pace. And then Kevin Simons was another guy who ran like a 6:10 pace. So I looked them up on Strava, followed them. They both had a ton of followers already. So I was like, okay, I'll follow them. It's just inspiration for what my training be. That's the first time I started seeing people working harder than me. I was like, whoa, they do 15, 16, 17 mile long runs. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So then I actually saw that on Strava, how it like groups people together if they run together. I had no idea Strava did that because I followed 10 people and then none of them ran together. But then I saw Maddie ran with Kevin. And I was like, oh man, they train together. That's pretty cool. I wonder if that's something that I could get involved in. So after a couple more weeks of creeping around, seeing where they train, making sure they're normal people, I reached out to Kevin on Facebook because Kevin was the dude. And I feel like it would be weird to reach out to the girl on Facebook and meet you at 5 a.m. But reached out to
Oh, it's
Kevin.
me and you.
Yeah, reached out to Kevin. He was like, yeah, come join us. We meet at 5 a.m. on Tuesdays at Plano West. So that's when I started running with the Racetrack Club group was the first group that we started running with and meeting every Tuesday. So then,
He's a
yeah,
great
that's
dude.
where
I
I
like him a
started
lot.
to take off my training.
Yeah, Shane, Ray's a great dude. I like him a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a lot of fun, those first couple years of running with all those guys and getting to know everyone in the running community. That I think I met hundreds of people in that first year when I first met everyone. And it was even during COVID. I think it was the May after the March of COVID. So like pretty close 2 months after, they're like, oh yeah, I guess this guy can run with us and all that good stuff. So I appreciate them welcoming me in and introducing me to everyone.
Yeah, so you started running with those guys, and they were running both a lot more, but also probably marathons and stuff. Is that when you kind of got interested in that and kind of
Yeah.
got the
So
peer
I'll
pressure?
be when they said they do marathons, I'm like, I would love to run a fast half marathon, but I'm never going to do a marathon. I actually said that. I was like, there's so much that can go wrong in marathons, whether it's your nutrition or the weather. Like a half marathon, you can gut it out through
Yeah,
whatever. The marathon, there's so many other factors that can go into it. You can train so hard for so long that I'm never going to do it. Lo and behold, you start doing 60, 70, 80 miles a week, and you're like, what am I going to use this fitness for if not for a
yeah,
marathon? So
exactly.
eventually they
What did you get your half marathon down first, or what'd you do
Yeah,
before?
so that another kind of fun story is I was training with them. So if I upped my mileage from like 25, 30 miles a week to 50 or 60 miles a week, just by the nature of like Tuesdays were now 10 miles, Thursdays were now 10 miles, and long runs were 15 miles. And I would run 3 to 4 on my own in the days in between. So running with people, like it doesn't feel like as much work as when you're running
Yeah,
alone. It's just I've been doing so much more mileage, but it was honestly, it felt easier than training alone. I signed up for a half marathon. It was the Town Lake Half Marathon in McKinney, which was one of the first half marathons post COVID that was going on again. And I had a goal of running 125 there because I knew I was in better shape. I knew I
yeah.
had more miles. I thought I could do it. And I actually ended up running a 119, that blew my mind. When I like crossing the line break, I was like, I never thought in a million
That's pretty
years
crazy.
yeah, it was crazy. That blew my mind. 5 minutes faster than I was thinking, breaking 120, which is a barrier that I think a lot of people are striving for and just doing it on a whim. I was like, oh man, there might be something to this. So that was the first time that opened my eyes of one, I definitely was never the hardest worker in the room. Two, I still have a lot more room that I can improve. And three, running is something that like seeing the results of the hard work that you put in is so addicting to me. So seeing that just got me so much more excited for what I could possibly do.
When you run like that, thinking you're going to go at a 125, did you start out at, because that's quite the difference for a half
Yeah.
marathon, right?
Was around 6:30, 6:20s to start. And then my
Okay.
last maybe 10K was 5:50s. Cause yeah, I think a 119 is maybe a 6:05, 6:06 out. Cause yeah, I think 240, 6:06. So 120 would be 6:06. But yeah, I started in the 6:30, 6:20s, and actually me, Ray, and Maddie ran that together. So the first 4 to 5 miles I was with Ray and Maddie. I think that's actually Maddie's current still half PR at a 120 something. And Ray right there with us. I forget what he ran. But yeah, the three of us were together for 3, 4, 5, the first 5 miles. And then I was feeling good. I was like, last time I felt good, I didn't feel so good at the end, but it worked out that time. The more miles definitely helped pay the bills there.
Yeah, it sounds like you went out like you thought you should, right? To run that 125. You started pushing at the end, the last 10K. I mean,
Mm.
that's pretty impressive. I like that
And
because
that's actually, that's
good.
the most fun way to race that I find is if you,
Yeah,
not that sometimes you can be
100%.
like, did I get all out of myself? If I was able to go that fast at the end, did I really try as hard as I can? But at that moment, not knowing I could go that fast, that was the most fun way to, and one of the most fun races that I've done just by how shocking it was.
Yeah, I've had a few races like that to where, I kind of start off somewhat reserved. And then I'm like, man, I feel really good and just blow it away the last 6 or 7 miles. I love the half marathon. I PR'd at the age of 50 last year, or back in
Wow.
September. And so I've run a lot, not like you, but I think I hit a 126. And so for me, that was really
Yeah.
fast. It was a downhill, but I still count it.
Yeah.
But I think that's what you have to do for me now, I have to be somewhat strategic if I want to run a PR in the halves to say, okay, for these first 3 or 4 miles, I need to do this, then I need to do this. And so I got to
Mm.
know the course and things like that. So, but that's pretty awesome. 19, thinking you're
Yeah.
going to get a 125 at best.
Yeah. I think there's about knowing the course, like you said, but yeah.
I think it can help because I'll give you a quick rundown. I probably said this in this podcast before. I went this downhill race back in September in Utah. And basically I did it 2 years ago and I did it this last year. And so I knew if I run faster the first 3 miles, because knowing it's a downhill, I knew the last 3 miles were going to be slower, no matter what. It just was. I knew that because I ran it conservatively the first 3 miles the first time. And I was like, I'm not running it conservatively this time. I'm going to push a little and I'm going to go faster. So I went from 7:15s to down to 6:30. So my first 3 miles were about 6:30-ish. And then I knew that this is where the really fast stuff gets from mile 4 or 5 or whatever, all the way till 9 or 10. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go fast anyways, but I got to push myself faster. This is a different type of race, right? This is not a race that you do conservative at the beginning and then push at the end. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But I knew because this was the downhill part, really fast downhill, I needed to push faster than I did last time, even though I was going super fast. And by 10 or 15 seconds each mile, I was going faster. So it went from, before I did it from a 6:18 to 6:07. So I did 3 6:07s. And then I knew the last 3 or 4 miles, I was like, all right, this is where it's going to really hurt, because then it's no longer, it's just flat. It wasn't downhill or uphill, but it was just flat, but it feels uphill after doing 10 miles like that. And so then I knew, before I did about a 7:15 the first time, 7:20. So I knew if I can hit the 7:10 to 7:05 mark, because I'm just dying. My legs are just killing me. I knew they would. But all I had to do was get it out. And I did. I got 2 or 3 minutes better the second time than the first. So the point is, I was very strategic and I was very much in shape for knowing that's the exact race that I was trying for 125. Hit a 126 almost exactly. I was like, but I still hit a PR by 2.5 minutes.
For sure. Those races, you have to push it at the beginning. It's just like if you know the course, and there's other races where you have to race conservative. But if you race conservative at that kind of race, it's going to be hard at the end, no matter what, like you said. You got to use your effort somewhere and kind of bank some time.
Yeah. And I've never heard of anybody doing that, but I thought that's what I'm going to do. That's what I did last time, the first time. So back to you, because this isn't about me. Sorry. But I get that. So you run the half and get a 119. What was then after? What'd you do?
I honestly don't really remember like what after that. I just kept training with that one kind of, I don't remember what my race after that was. Maybe it was Houston. My first marathon was Houston. I believe it was 2022. I was because it's in January and you're training in 1 year. But I think it was 2022 because I had been at this point, I'd been running with them for, I think, 2 or so years. I was going down to White Rock to long runs, which that's another good kind of beginning story. My first 15, 16 mile long run, I just got absolutely dropped and just had weekend after weekend, just had to keep going until you can keep up, and then eventually you can start doing workouts. But those first runs, when you're used to doing 10-mile long runs on your own to going to 16 miles with the group, I just got absolutely handled on those. But that's what makes you better, is running with that group. And so you just keep up as long as you can until eventually you can keep up with the group. But I think after 2 or so years of training with everyone who had done marathons before, I was one of the only ones that hadn't done a marathon. I signed up for Houston, and I had a lofty goal for my first marathon to run a sub 2:45. And that's so I kind of wish. So I wish I had run a marathon before I started training to know like where my set point was. Like if I didn't train, like at 30, would I be a 4-hour marathon? Or who knows what I would have ran. But after training, like I had that goal because I was running 60, 70 miles a week, and everyone that I had run with that I'm training with marathons before, and I saw what they were doing. And so I ran that race probably 95% with Jennifer, and she had done marathons before. She ended up running a 2:43 and I ended up running a 2:44. So I did actually hit the goal, and that kind of,
And your first marathon?
That was a blessing and a curse, because after that, I was like, marathon, like I felt pretty bad the last 10K, but like I was able to push through. Like marathons aren't so bad. And thankfully, I actually haven't had a bad marathon, but I do think I'm a pretty good pacer when it comes to marathons. And also I do a decent amount of mileage. But I really have had a bad marathon, knock on wood, now that I say that. I also haven't raced that many marathons. I think I've raced a total of 4 marathons now.
It's probably smart.
I would like before CIM that I just did in December, I was obviously planning to run Boston, and we can get into that, how I wasn't able to do that. But before, I was probably almost 2 years since I had run a marathon before CIM. So part of me running CIM was like, my body doesn't remember what it's like to run a marathon. I'm trying to do as fast as I've ever done it, faster than I've ever done it. and I haven't done it in 2 years. So hopefully my
What are
body
you
is
talking about
remembered.
from this last one? Was the first time you've done it in 2
Yes.
years?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's 125. I had my marathon before that was Cowtown in February 2 years
Mm.
prior to that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Did you get a 2:45 there? Because that'd be really good.
Yeah, so I ran the 245 at Houston, and then I did Houston again and ran a 249. I was going for a sub 240,
Yeah.
flew up there, but still ended up being 249, which I was very proud of. And then I did Cowtown, and that's where I thought I was still in sub 240 shape, but I really wanted a Boston qualifier. So I raced it pretty conservatively and ran a 241 there. So that was just to get the Boston. I'm very blessed to say that was just to get the Boston qualifier. I raced that one conservatively. Like, I think I negative split that one too, which was a nice feeling at a
Especially
race like that.
Cowtown.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily the hill is at mile 10 and not mile 20. So
Yeah.
it feels a
Yeah.
little bit, but yeah, then
Now,
I
did you win
qualified
it?
for,
Did you win that one or no?
I think that was fourth. I think,
Okay.
Joe maybe won that. And then Troy Castle was also ahead of me. I forget. There was one more person ahead of me too. Yeah.
From the other day, Joe Hill. So
Yeah.
that'd
Yeah.
be a
It was
fun
part
one.
of that Dallas.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's get into the Boston thing. What happened? Like, you were supposed to run Boston this
Yeah.
last year,
So yeah,
and you
Cowtown was
didn't.
the whole goal was to qualify for Boston because I really wanted to run Boston. So did that, qualified for Boston, trained for Boston with the whole group. And then I don't know this 100%, but I'm fairly confident that I got a new pair of shoes to race Boston in, tried them to a workout 3 weeks out, and it was okay. I was a little bit sore in my foot after that workout, and just not anything crazy, just normal soreness. Oh, it's a
Yeah.
new shoe. My feet are good. And then 2 weeks out, I did one more workout because I was like, oh, I want to strengthen my feet, make sure they're used to these shoes. Turns out that was a terrible idea. I got a stress reaction because I think the shoes were a little too unsupportive for what I was used to. And so the muscles in my were like compensating to be a bone or just pulled super tight. And I tried to run through it as everyone does less than a week out from race day. And I think that ended up causing me more. I think if I would have stopped immediately when I felt it, I maybe could have made it to the race start.
Yeah.
But I was like, we're close enough. It's just a little niggle or something like that. I'll be fine. And then eventually on this 6-mile run, I think it was 5 days out from Boston, I ended up having to walk 3 miles home on a 6-mile loop that I was doing. So then I was panic mode and I was texting everyone I knew, and Matt Campbell had sent me a manual therapist. I was like texting anyone that would listen. Okay, I need to get my leg worked out. I think it's just a tight muscle that could maybe loosen up and let some pain in my foot go away. But I think it was a little too far gone at that point where it caused that stress reaction versus if I had stopped earlier, what I thought my remedy could be of working a muscle out may have worked, but I think I had pushed it a little too far. So I did go to Boston. I flew to Boston. I had every intention of running. I met up with Aaron 2 days before and did the shakeout run I think I was able to run like a quarter mile at a time and then had to start walking. And so then one day before the race, I was like, all right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to run 3 straight miles. And no matter what, no matter how much it hurts, I'm going to run 3 miles just to see like what it's going to be like on race day when I line up. Because at this point I was fairly confident that I wanted to line up because I didn't know it was a stress reaction. Also at this point, I couldn't get an MRI that quick. But I was like, all right, it's going to feel better. I'm going to take days
Is it
off.
stress fracture or is there stress reaction?
Just a reaction. So it was like, if I would have done more on it, it would have caused a fracture. Necessarily, I've off the ins and outs. Someone can probably tell me that I'm wrong.
Okay, I didn't.
But
I didn't.
did
never
get
heard
an
it like that.
MRI. We confirmed a reaction in there and just took some time off. But yeah, the day before Boston, I was going to go for that 3-mile run that I was going to just do no matter what. And I made it a quarter mile at 6:30 pace, just trying to test out a little bit of race pace. And I was like, absolutely not. This is way too painful. I'm not running normal. So it was a blessing and a curse because I think if I would have not done that and just went to the starting line, I probably would have had to pull out at 1 mile in, 2 miles in. Wouldn't have enjoyed any of it. Would have had to been driven back to this finish line in a van. Wouldn't have been able to watch everyone. But so that morning, the day before when I decided to pull the plug, my wife was there too. We just decided to go explore Boston, had a few drinks. I actually had some buddies there that flew out from Wisconsin to watch me run. Unfortunately, they couldn't run, but I was able to party with them the night before. So we got to see Boston. We got to do some fun things. And then the next day, we all got to watch the race together. I got to watch everyone that I trained with have awesome races. So there was a little bit of a silver lining of, I think if it was a race like Dallas, like if it was in Dallas and I was training for the Dallas Marathon, I think I honestly would have been more upset because there's nothing else to do other than just be home, maybe go watch the race.
Yeah.
But I got a vacation to Boston out of it and made it a silver lining. And it was overall, it was still a fun trip. It was obviously a bummer. And I think I was more upset the day that it happened, like the 5 days before the race, because I was like, this might ruin everything, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then I had time to let it sink in and realize what goes on. And now, honestly, removed from it a year or so later, like it's just such a small blip in your running career that it taking time off. And then when you're coming back, it feels like so long, but it is just such a small blip and you get back so quick from, even if you have to take 6 full weeks off it, whatever you have trained before you don't lose that. You just have to gain it back in half the time usually.
Yeah, and I think that's a good lesson because we as runners spend so much time and effort running, friends with getting our bodies in that shape that when we do get injured or whatever, we had a hard time taking off or going to do the weights or going to the doctor or whatever, because we don't want to lose our fitness. We don't want to lose our community that we go and see. And it's just, I don't know what it is, but it's just really hard. And I like how you said that because it's just a blip, man. It's just shit happens. It just does.
Yeah, it is tough. Like, in the moment when you feel something and you're like, I should take a day off and just let it recover. But you're like, oh man, one day I'm going to lose all my fitness that I've ever worked for.
Yeah,
but then after you do a marathon and you take a week or two off and you're like, oh, after 2 weeks of coming back, I'm just right back where I was. So it is just like you're a prisoner of the moment. Oh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. But then you zoom, realize it's just part of life. It'll move on, everything. There's more races to be ran.
What did you do after? Like, what did you go to the doctor or what happened?
Yeah, so I did go get an MRI just because at that point, obviously Boston was over, but I just wanted to I wanted answers. If it was a stress fracture and I needed to take 6 weeks off, that's fine. I just want to know. I want to know what my path is moving from. So they confirmed there is no stress fracture, but there is a reaction. So they recommended, I think, 2 weeks of nothing and then a couple more weeks of just light walk, jogging, and then moving back. So the first run back, I think 2 or 3 weeks later, was actually super painful. But I remember it being like such a kind of pain. Like when I had the reaction, I would step on my foot and it would immediately zing, like when I landed. But this was like I could land fine, but my push off was just in pain. So I could tell it was like something that like my muscles and just needed to reacclimate to running. It was like my muscles that were protecting the injury were now needs to be broken up and kind of, at least this is what I tell myself. I don't know if this is medically accurate or not, but it worked. So I did a walk run.
It seemed to work.
But it was different things. And then I took a day off. And then, so I did every other day for, I think, 2 weeks. And that kind of helped loosen it up and get everything back. And then I was back to 20, 30 miles a week, running 6 days a week. So just short runs. And then a week or two later, I was back to normal training.
And then when did you know you were going to go run CIM? Because I assume that was your next race from a marathon standpoint.
So Aaron and I had trained most for Boston together. Jennifer was there too. Jennifer was doing London, which was a week later. So training lined up. But that was the first marathon that the three of us had like a very similar time goal, a very similar training plan, a very similar like race date. And that's when we all linked up for training most of the time. And so Aaron was able to run and me and him were planning to run the whole race together. And I felt bad that I felt like I'm ditching him and he obviously felt bad because I wasn't able to run after putting in all that work.
Sure,
so I think it was right after the race of Boston, I texted Aaron a screenshot of my sign up for CIM because I was like, I need redemption. I think it was Dustin, who we run with, Dustin Durakshan, I believe that's how you say his name, who had messaged the group ago that he signed up for CIM and there were a couple others that are already committed. And I wasn't necessarily, I am like a 1 marathon a year kind of guy. I like to take my recovery. I like to train for faster stuff in between. But after not being able to do Boston, thinking I was in really good shape, I was like, I need some redemption. So I signed up while still in Boston at my hotel.
I love that. I didn't know you guys were going to do it that early, but so you already knew you were going to go through it. So when you were training, there was no nicks and bruises or you didn't get hurt or anything like that throughout the training block?
I hate training in summer in Texas. So I knew I was going to start like early September for the December race. So Boston was April, took a little bit of time off, took the summer to build back slowly, do some speed and lower mileage now being like 40 to 50 miles a week. And then in September, training kicked off. So carried over some of that Boston fitness, kept some speed in summer by doing some shorter, faster reps. And then September started the marathon training.
Did you do any 5Ks during the summer?
I honestly don't remember if I did any K races. My 5K PR is from the Dash Down Greenville the March after the February of my Cowtown Marathon. So that was maybe 24. But yeah, that's a
What
couple
was your
years old
PR?
now. 16:20 in the 5K,
Okay. All right.
which
Big fast.
my next goal is to break 16 minutes in the 5K, but that's getting ahead of ourselves.
I like it. You should start running with the Travises and Steves and Casey and those guys.
Yeah, I break 16 minutes in their sleep, I think. So yeah, maybe I'll have one of them pace me. Oh, to help.
A couple of those guys hit 13s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's nice to
Put that
have
in
the
perspective.
train with
13s?
follow it is nice to have guys that could run your race pace at a jog, not that necessarily that it feels good that but the fact that they can be out there and do it and pace you pretty reliably is
Yeah.
nice to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. All right. You get to the marathon finally, right? Like you spent all this time and effort, September, obviously until December, really training.
Mhm.
How did your training block go? How'd you feel? Were you ready? What was your mentality? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so the training block went pretty well. I honestly would probably have told you that the Boston training block that I did went better, but
Mm.
that's mostly just because I think we had better weather for that Boston training block. I'm
Yeah.
a pretty weather dependent runner, which is a blessing and a curse. I feel like I make so many excuses when it's warm, but I love running in 30 degrees and colder.
Oh,
Like
well.
I'm very much a cold, my heart rate just stays lower, it seems. So a lot of the workouts for this CIM build were in a little bit warmer weather, and by warm, 60 degrees, nothing crazy. Like everyone else loves this temperature. I'm just like, I wish we could have low 40s and stuff like that. So a lot of the work, like
It's good to train
structurally
in
similar,
warmer weather, though. You know, that's good
yeah,
for you.
especially for the longer reps, it definitely builds tough. But Jennifer, Aaron, and I had built the CI build. It's very similar to our Boston build. We had similar key workouts. We had similar kind of races sprinkled in there. So one of the key workouts is a 15-mile workout where you do 4 miles at MP, 1 mile at threshold, and repeat that continuously 3 times. And so in the Boston build, we had absolutely nailed that. I think for 15 miles, we averaged 5:50 pace, which was 5 seconds faster than our goal marathon pace. Obviously, we had the threshold miles thrown in there, but it was 15 miles straight at 5:50 pace. This Boston build, we did that same workout and I had to quit or like a rep early. I could not do the last 4 miles at marathon pace. I was so beat. It was so hot and humid It was like 70 degrees and really humid. So I was such a weather dependent guy, but one of the races, so we actually did me and Aaron did the Toyota Music Factory half marathon in Irving. And I had run, like I was thinking like maybe I'll run a 1:15. My current PR was a 1:15:40 going into that. And I was like, I think I could better my PR, but I don't know that I'll go much lower than 1:15. Maybe I'll hit 1:14 high. And we ran a 1:13:40, or I was 1:14:30. I think
Wow.
Aaron was 1:14:30 to me. And that kind of blew me away too. It was actually a very similar feeling to when I ran the 1:19 when I was going for 1:25. I thought there was no way I could break 1:14, run a 1:13. And actually during the whole, so Aaron and I ran that basically 100% together. He beat me by 3 seconds at the end, but his PR was 1:14 low and mine was 1:15:40. And so like I'm a big math guy and he's just a run by vibes guy. And I was doing math in my head at like mile 6 or 7. And I was like, I think if you go now, you can still PR, Aaron. Like 1:14, neither of us were expecting to run that fast. And I kept saying that to him, like miles and miles to go. I was like, Aaron, like you need to start going right now. Like I know you're fitter than me. You can go and you can still PR, because I thought maybe we'd run a 1:14 high. And he was like, no, I'm good. I'm good. And then at the end, I realized why he was good. And I was like, we were going way faster than either of us had assumed we were going. So it was that race in November.
Doing
Was
the
that,
bad
and I was
math.
like, we might have something special here. Yeah. When we turned the corner and I saw 1:13 on the clock, I was like, either I'm doing math wrong, this course is wrong, or I'm way faster than I thought I was. Luckily, it was the latter, because the GPS was 13.2 or whatever a half marathon reads as. But yeah, so that was a good feeling going into it. And after that, I was just like, all right, now that I can prove to myself that I am fit, I just need to make it to the start line healthy. So every workout after that in November was just like, I'm not going to overdo it. I'm not going to wear new shoes. We're just going to try and make it to CI. Yeah, healthy. And luckily we were able to do that. But yeah, the training block was ups and downs depending on the weather, which is the story of my running life. If it's 40 degrees on a Saturday, you'll catch me cruising around White Rock. If it's 70 degrees on that same Saturday at White Rock, you'll catch me dying behind everyone. But the training stimulus is still there.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome. So it sounds like it went extremely well, and sounds
Yeah.
like you would have been very confident because of the half and some of the training blocks and things. And so that, that bodes well for CIM. Did you ever run CIM? You've never run CIM before. It's your first,
I
I
have,
assume, right?
I've done Houston twice, the Chicago Marathon once, Cowtown once, and then CIM was, so yeah, those are the only ones I've done.
And all right, let's talk about race day then. You
Yeah.
get to CIM. How are you thinking? How are you feeling? What did you and Jennifer and Aaron talk about? Did y'all think that you're going to run together, or did you not? Because it sounds like you guys had somewhat similar goals.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jennifer was in the elite or ADP corral. I forget which
Mm.
one it was. So she was starting at the way front, and Aaron and I were traveled together. We went on the bus. And so Aaron and I were for sure going to run together, at least for however long at the beginning. We were going to start in the corral together. And we were hoping we could find Jennifer at some point in the race, but we know 10 seconds at a marathon when you're going marathon paces, like you could be 2, 3, 4 miles before you find someone. If that, maybe she goes up faster than we do. So we didn't know if we were going to find her or not. We were hoping we would, but Aaron and I lined up together. And then, so yeah, I guess this can get into the whole story of CIM. Aaron and I start together. We go off, and I think it was around mile 2, we saw Jennifer. I think she was wearing pink shorts, very easy to find. So I scurry up and we go find her, and she's like, "Well, you guys caught us pretty quick." And the little joke that we have is Aaron and I are always arguing on long runs about what pace we're going, how fast we're going, where we should go. We're singing, we're doing some stupid thing to be entertaining or annoying, one of the two. And so Jennifer, it's mile 2 of a marathon. We're all in pretty good spirits. So she said, "You caught me like pretty quick. How fast were you guys going?" And Aaron says, "Oh, we were going like 540 per mile." And I was like, "Nope, that's definitely not correct." And he's like, "Yeah, I had 540 on my first mile." "Nope, your GPS was wrong. I lap splitted it at mile 1. It was about 6 flat. So we weren't going that fast." And then Jennifer was like, "Yeah," because Jennifer was in the group of all these like OTQ girls and like all these kind of like a little bit more serious than Aaron and I were being. She's like, "Hey guys, these are my friends, just the annoying two that just argue the whole time." And it was a funny little joke that we had. And then, so Jennifer joined me and Aaron. We took off a little bit from that OTQ group. We were going like 552, 553 pace, and they were sticking at 6 flat pace, which is the OTQ pace. And then, yeah, we stuck like that for, I guess we were together for 20 miles, but then in the middle there, at some point, Aaron pulled a nice Aaron move on me and Jennifer that we're used to in training, but everyone else around us were surprised. He dropped something on the ground, and we thought he dropped a gel. So we're both yelling, "Aaron, don't stop. We'll give you a gel. Like, we have enough extra." So he starts running forward again, then he stops again, and he falls over. And we're like, "What is it?" Me and Jennifer both, this is classic Aaron. What is he doing? And he had actually done something like this before on a long run where he had to stop to tie his shoe and then caught back up. And we were like in the middle of doing 540 pace, and we're like, how is he going to catch up? Somehow he always does. But he ended up falling over because it was wet on the ground. So when he stopped, he tripped, he fell over, he still ran backwards. He had ended up, he dropped his speaker that he brought with him to listen to at the end of the race, and then caught back up. And we're like, "Aaron, what are you doing? Why did you do that?" And he's like, "I don't know. I think the time that I would have lost by not having the speaker was worth this time that I just spent to go get it. So you know what? Whatever.
But you said he fell?
Aaron. It works. What's up?
You said he fell?
What'd you say? He did fall. Yeah. So
Wow. All right. So mile 20, whatever. He falls, he gets his speaker, and then what happens? How are you feeling, by
yeah.
the way,
So
at mile 20?
yeah. This was a little bit before halfway that this all occurred. It wasn't mile 20
Oh,
yet. I think if it was mile
okay.
20, it would have been a little more detrimental, but this a little bit earlier in the race. But yeah, so
Okay.
me, Jennifer, and Aaron were together from mile 2 until about mile 20. At mile 20, Aaron and Jennifer took off. I guess they didn't really take off. I more was falling back a little bit. I was getting pretty tired. So they probably put 20 to 30 seconds on me, and I could still see where they were, but they obviously didn't know what happened. For all they know, like I was just bonked and dead and didn't continue, but I kept them in my sights. And that was actually, it was really helpful having 2 people that I trained with before up in front of me in my sights, because I was kind of like, oh, if they're doing it, like I should be able to do it too. There's no reason for me to start falling off. I can continue to run and push. And so that kind of helped me get through those little woes of, oh no, I'm dying, I'm crashing, I'm burning, my legs are going to give out. It was like, no, there's 2 people that I trained with, I did everything with, that are up there still. So like I should still be able to push on. And then mile 24, I saw that Aaron was pulling a little bit away from Jennifer, and I was catching Jennifer a little bit as well. So that kind of gave me a little more motivation of I have a chance to beat Jennifer here. She had the OTQ locked up. That was her big goal. He didn't want to
Yeah.
crash and burn. We were running on 2:35 pace, and so she had 2 minutes to spare. And so I started to kick it in because I was like, if I can beat her and she's just settling in, we'll go ahead and do that. So Jennifer and I ran, I think, mile 24 and 25 together. And then I pulled ahead a little bit just because it was the end of the race. And I was like, you know what? You got to give it all you have. And Erin had finished about 20 seconds, I think, before me. And so when I crossed the finish line, Erin was maybe 1 or 2 spots ahead of me. So not many people were there. And Erin's, oh, Eric, great job. We did it. Because our goal was 2:35. And I was like, yeah, I've been here the whole time, man. Like, I knew I was going to do it. And I told him this literally the other day. I was like, I realize now that when you saw me at the finish line, you had no idea where I was. I could have been 5 minutes behind. I could have been 10 minutes behind. He's like, yeah, for all I know, like you just stopped and walked. So yeah, that was nice that he ran at 2:35:02, I think, something like that, which is a little bit unfortunate because I think 2:34 would have been cool for him. But now it was actually really cool that me, Erin, and Jennifer, we all ran a 2:35 something. So 3 people that did a lot of the training together over the course of a full marathon where so much can happen, so much can go wrong, someone can fall. We finished within 30 or 40 seconds of each other. So that was really cool.
I love that story. And I talked to Erin as well about some of the same stories. So it'll be fun for you guys to kind of listen to each other's story when it all comes out.
Yeah.
Because you tell a little different.
Yeah, I'm sure our perspective a little different of what was going on during the race. Yeah.
So what'd y'all do after the race?
Erin and I we roomed together at CIM. So we had the hotel room with there were 2 bedrooms in it, 2 bathrooms, all that kind of stuff. I would never want to share a marathon hotel room with someone with only 1 bathroom. So I had booked a hotel and I was able to upgrade it because Erin, for some reason, didn't book his hotel for reasons unbeknownst to me, but I was able to upgrade mine and get a room with 2 rooms. It was like a suite with 2 rooms and a whole kitchen setup and all that kind of stuff. So that was nice. And our hotel actually had a hot tub. So Erin and I did the 15-minute waddle back to our hotel, immediately got in the hot tub. Greatest decision of our lives. That felt so good. It relaxed my muscles so much. And then we went to Yard House with a bunch of the people that had finished it. It was like Melanie, Madeline, Liz, Maddie, Jennifer, Erin, Dustin and Jeff were there. I know you had Grace, Mel, and Maddie who were on your podcast. They were all there. And I think they actually all together in an Airbnb too. So we all met up for drinks and to share stories and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think Melanie was the one that mentioned it on the podcast that Dustin was the one that he brought his kids, but the rest of us were solo, home free. So we were all just having some drinks, sharing our stories about the races, doing race recaps, which is always so much fun because we all did the same thing, but we all had so much different experiences. Just, how did you feel around this part? Oh, you remember this part? It was, yeah. So it was just fun catching up, sharing stories like that.
What's amazing to me is that I don't know if everyone had an amazing race, but for the most part, the majority of people seem to have an amazing race that were there, right? Like
Yeah,
either
there were a
PRs
lot
or
of people be drunk at that celebration. I think everyone had PR'd. Those 3 girls that broke 250, me, Jennifer, and Erin that were going for 2:35 got 2:35. Jeff had run a huge PR. His old PR, I think, was 2:42. He ran at 2:37. So yeah, everyone was just giddy with a new marathon PR. And leaving our families behind. Like we love our families to travel with us, but that's a goal of doing something like this is so you can get that huge PR. So you can show that what you've been training for is worth it. So being able to share that moment and just like everyone hit their goal was super exciting.
Yeah, congratulations. It's quite the accomplishment. And hey, you did it with your friends, community. And I talk about this all the time and how important it is. You truly showed the importance. And Erin and Jennifer and Maddie and Grace and even Melanie, even those 3 didn't run with each other per se. They still came together at the end of the day and still accomplished amazing things.
Yeah, I give Mel and Grace a ton of kudos for training solo. I know they said that it was fun seeing people on Strava, but truly, if I didn't have the people here to run with, like Jennifer and Erin, and then Maddie's who is doing runs with us, I don't think I would be training nearly as hard as I do. Like I told you, going from a 134 half to the 119 half, that was truly just because of running with people that were faster than me and trying to keep up. And then I would never wake up at 5 a.m. to run 14 miles, do like a 5x2 mile workout if I was solo. So having those accountability partners, people that have the same goals in mind, it definitely helps. And there's no way that I would be running nearly as quick as I would be now without the community that we have.
Is there anything that we missed or didn't discuss about your journey or the marathon that you were like, Man, I wish we would have discussed this.
I don't think so. I think the big theme in my like running progression and career is just that community aspect. Once you find those people with common goals that just want to get better, that want to help you improve, they're there for you, you're there for them. That's just, it's crazy the improvements you can see. And like, I never thought that I would be able to run as fast as I am now. If you would have asked me, like when I was training for a 1:30 half marathon, if I would run as fast as I am now, there's no way I would be like, I'm an elite runner now. What are you talking about? Whereas I know now, like I'm not necessarily elite, but if you would have asked me about those times back then, for sure would have thought.
All right, for tuning in to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Stetzel. Thanks to Eric Bretl for coming in. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter at dfwrunningtalk.substack.com. Thanks again.